What's going on, y'all? What's going on, y'all? Happy Sunday. It's your boy Ace Boogie, artist, plant eater, truth speaker. We're back here for another week of dissecting religion. I'm so happy to be here. Man, it's been a great couple of weeks. We're on week 4 of doing this. Just going through the Bible chapter by chapter, breaking it down, trying to see what we can find, if there's anything relevant and useful for our lives today. So I'm still here in LA. The trip got prolonged because we were met with the storm. Everybody's dealing with, what's going on with the storm, the snowstorm in Dallas, and with all of the chaos that was ensuing back in Dallas. Our flight got canceled, and so it ended up that we needed to just, stay here for a bit longer. Gabrielle and I have been back and forth between LA and Dallas for pretty much half of the quarantine, just trying to figure out how to move out here and, get our bearings and finding auditions, and then discovering that auditions don't really matter in terms of location. So might as well stay with family and not pay rent, get out your lease, not pay rent, stay with family and just save up and try to figure out where to go when the world actually opens back up. So that's what we've been on, man. But as we've been doing that, I know that this week we're going to be doing Genesis 4. So I'm super excited about getting into this. So if you've been following along, we went through Genesis 1, and Genesis 1 is really about the development of the world. So we're talking about chaos and order, right? And when we talk about the Bible, we're visiting it from a secular perspective. So we're not trying to we really want to make sure that we're speaking about it in a way that is understandable and in a way that feels authentic and not forced, not an imposition of external morality. So that is really an important. That's an important aspect to me when it comes to dissecting religion, because what a lot of people get lost in is feeling guilty about the way that they live their life. And the Bible is a personal story. That's the thing you got to remember. The Bible is personal. It's not it's personal. That's really how we're just going to start off talking about it. So as we go through, we'll look at all of the main points of what the Bible is trying to make. And I'm super excited. Like I'm excited to go through this myself, because it's helping me understand our fundamental stories as human beings, right? Like these stories are embedded within us for 3.5 billion years. It's the way of life, right? So Genesis 1 talks about chaos and order. That's our yin yang symbol, right? So you have the yin yang symbol, you have dark, light, good, evil, truth, lies, right? That's what chaos and order is about. God is willing all of those things together. We know this to be true, that the universe is made up of chaos and order, right? And so that's exactly what Genesis 1 describes, but in this poetic, archetypal way, right? They're using archetypes to tell the story of how life exists. Now, Genesis 2 goes into the creation of Adam and Eve, which is really about finding your person. How do you find your match? How do you find someone that is truly flesh of your flesh and bone of your bone? And chapter 3 is the setup, right? So chapter 3 is the inciting incident of the entire life journey, right? This is the story that makes it so that makes our existence suffering, right? This is our existence is suffering. Life sucks. As soon as you're here, you're gonna die, and when you're here and when you know you're gonna die, you then have to work, and you have to you can't just basically live in paradise. You're no longer in heaven, and now you have to figure out how to get back to heaven. So Genesis 3 is about the setup. Now Genesis 4 is another favorite of mine. Genesis 4 brings in man-made sin, right? So there's a difference between the original sin. Original sin is the inciting incident of the game, right? Like, this is how we play. Humans are going to be told to do something, and as soon as they're told to do something, they're going to do the opposite. That's just the setup, right? That's how humans will exist. And then you have human sin, right? Man-made sin, which is murder and fratricide, and that's where we get into the Cain and Abel stories. And so that's what we're going through today, talking about Cain and Abel. And the reason why I'm hype about Cain and Abel is because this is a story. I mean, I think all of these stories, obviously, it's all fundamental, right? And you see how it's kind of building to tell this unique narrative of what it means to be a human, right? These are the types of things that you're going to have to deal with. And the story kind of puts it in a hierarchy, from beginning being the most important information to the end being being not necessarily the least important information, but the last information that you need. Like that's getting real detailed. Like, if you want to go all the way down into it, then you can follow the story, follow the journey, and by the time you get to Revelation, you will understand in full detail what the meat and what the core values of the story are. So anyway, so let's get into some fratricide. So the setup was that Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden. Everything was paradise. Everything was happy. Then the snake tempts them to eat the forbidden fruit. Eve goes along with it for whatever reason. Then she's with her husband. She gives it to him. The husband goes along with it for whatever reason, even though the husband knows that God has told him not to do this thing. So finally they're eating of the fruit and everything is seemingly fine. And God comes back and he says, hey, what's going on? Why are you guys wearing clothes? Why you guys haven't been talking to me? And then they have to confess, right? So God kicks them out of the Garden of Eden. He punishes them all. He says that you're going to have to work. You're going to have to till the ground. You're going to have painful childbirth. There's going to be an endless battle between humans and snakes and serpents. And you guys will have to deal with that from here on out, because you wanted to wake up and you didn't want to listen to your consciousness. So now they're out. Now Adam and Eve are out in the world, and they got to figure out the world now. And so we start Genesis. Oh, it's 11:11. Give me a second. I got to kiss my wife and say a prayer. All right. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. Okay, so yes, so now Eve knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I've gotten a man with the help of the Lord. And again she bore his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain was a worker of the ground. In the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground, and Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and their fat proportions. And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard. So Cain was very angry, and his face fell. All right, so what we got to remember is, I'm kind of running through this story fast, but we got to remember that these stories are incredibly dense, right, with really profound poetry. So what's happening here, right? So we know that Obviously now men and women are out in the world, right, trying to figure out how to do this on their own without the help of this promised land. And so they now they're having babies, and it's in pain, because their heads have gotten bigger, right? Our brains have gotten bigger because we've gained all this knowledge, and when you have bigger brains, then it means painful childbirth for women. So now Eve has two boys in pain, um, and one is older than the other. And there's something really interesting here. So for primitive people, I mean, for many of us, like, our firstborn is the most precious, right? The most valuable, the most precious is your firstborn, right? And then and then you see that in cultures over the years. We give our firstborn typically gets the wealth of the inheritance, right? And they get most of it. They get treated the best. They're the oldest. Then they get given they are given all the reins. But here, what's interesting is that God has flipped it, right? So God is finding favor on the younger son, Abel. But Cain is a worker of the ground. So Cain is like a farmer. Not sure what that says about farmers, and because what's really cool about this story is that there's kind of an ambiguity here, which is cool because life is ambiguous, right? There's an ambiguity to life all the time. So people are, you know, uh, there's an ambiguity to life. And so it's never really clear you should be, uh, what you should be doing, right? Like, or what the right answer is. And then you have this God character that is kind of ambiguous as well. Like, how do I actually talk to him? Because he doesn't actually talk. And how do I communicate with him when something is going wrong in my life, right? Um, and so here we're remembering that God is consciousness, right? So Cain is making an offering, and so is Abel. They're both making these offerings. Now, what is an offering exactly? An offering is a sacrifice, right? Sacrifice is one thing that separates us from animals, right? Animals don't understand the concept of sacrifice, right? You do something today so that you don't have to do it tomorrow. Yeah, because God is tomorrow. God is the future. So when you sacrifice something, you are acknowledging that the future exists, right? Automatically, off jump. Just because you're like, all right, I'm going to do this because I don't want the future to be hard on me as it could be, right? So instead, I'm going to work to build this house today so that I can live in it tomorrow, so that when the storm comes, I'm prepared, right? As opposed to, oh, I don't feel like building the house, right? I partake in the deadly sin of sloth. I don't feel like building my house. I don't feel like creating that right now. And I don't feel like doing the work. And so when tomorrow comes, I'll just deal with tomorrow when it comes. But the problem is that when you make that assumption that you're going to just deal with tomorrow as it comes, you underestimate the power of life and the fact that life can kill you, right? Like, life isn't actually yours. Life is life's. Yeah. And life is God. So God is this future potential that is coming to change your destiny, right? Every day, the future is coming to change your current circumstances. right? And you have to be prepared for that, because success is where preparation meets opportunity. So if you're not prepared, then you will not succeed in the opportunity, right? Um, so Cain and Abel here are recognizing the importance of making sacrifices to the future. You have to do this today, or else tomorrow will not be kind to you. And that's what we're doing as humans all the time, right? So that's another part of this story. It's like sacrifice. What is sacrifice? And that's I'm gonna say sacrifice and murder is really what these things are. Is what the topic of this chapter is. Okay. So Cain and Abel are both making sacrifices, and here we have it. It's not clear why God is not favoring Cain's, but is favoring Abel's. Maybe there's something about the fact that sheep are more laborious to take care of, and to kill off your firstborn sheep is a true weighted offering, and then to give your just rather than give some of your fruits and vegetables that you probably weren't going to eat anyway, or were maybe they're rotting or whatever. Okay, this is for you, God. And it's not so much that God is going to use the stuff, right? It's about acknowledging the future. And the people that, history shows, that the people that are better at acknowledging and recognizing the future, the people that make the best sacrifices for the future, turn out the best in life, right? They have the best in life. And starting here, you have this understanding of sacrifice, what needs to be sacrificed is a fat goat, cut its blood, slaughter it, you say, and you give that to God, right? There's something in that ritual to say, God, this is for you. Maybe it's barbarian to us today, but think about it as in terms of an ape, right? You're a monkey. You don't know. You're just living off of your own biology. How long did we have to be looking at the stars, looking at life to recognize that all of this shit is the same? All of this shit is one. And maybe there's something to making sacrifices. You do something today, and then tomorrow is better in some way. You can expect that tomorrow is going to be better. So here you have this understanding of ritual and sacrifice and doing hard work and giving it to God, right? And this is where it starts. And you have people making sacrifices for aeons and aeons until you get to Christ, right? And then Christ makes the ultimate sacrifice. He gives his life, right? He's not going and slaughtering a goat or a lamb and cutting his blood and painting it on the door. No, at the end of the day, what happens is he gives his own life for God, for consciousness, right? For the higher good. That's the ultimate sacrifice. And it starts right here. God is favoring the bigger sacrifice. God favors the bigger sacrifice. So, and what is that? It's only on you to kind of decide what that big sacrifice is, and you'll get a little inkling of that here. So Cain was very angry, and his face fell. He's like, "Why the hell, God? You're not accepting my offering." And so the Lord said to Cain, just like consciousness does, "Why are you angry? And why is your face falling? If you do well, will you not be accepted?" Right? So what God is asking, he's saying, and this is very poetic, right? So first he's like, "Yo, why the hell are you even upset right now? What's going on? Why do you have a reason to be mad? I don't understand. I'm just telling you that I don't like your offerings and your life." And so God isn't it's not like Cain's life is going well. He feels like he's suffering, and then he's talking to God now. He's like, "God, I'm suffering, man. I'm suffering." And God's like, "Well, if you did well, do you think you'd be suffering? Don't you think you'd be accepted if you maybe did a better job? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door." So God is preparing. He says, "Hey, you better be careful of not doing well." You want to just keep cursing life. You want to keep saying that life is hard on you, and you want to be selfish and think that, oh, you're making all your sacrifices enough. I'm telling you, I'm God the Almighty, and I am telling you that your sacrifices are not enough. The reason why your life is suffering is because it's your fault. It's all on you. That's the last thing that Cain wants to hear. It's my fault? Motherfucker, fuck you, man. This is my fault. I'm coming to you with a problem and you're telling me that it's my fault. God says its desire is contrary to you, but you must rule over it. Right? So God is trying to help him. He's like, listen, man, you gotta figure your shit out, man. Like, it's not all Abel. Like, you can't be blaming Abel for your problems. You can't be blaming anybody else and getting angry with everybody else because your shit not working and you ain't get your shit together. Right? And that's what your consciousness does. You get real upset, and then you start talking to yourself, you start talking to family, you start talking to people, the Holy Spirit starts talking to you like, man, it's you. It's something you gotta do. And you're like, no, it's nothing I gotta do. I gotta go and talk to this motherfucker, man. Yeah, I'm gonna go do something. And that's what Cain does. So Cain gets all in his head, and this is what happens. He's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do something. Oh, trust me, I'm gonna do something. So Cain goes and speaks to his brother, and when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother and killed him. And then the Lord God said to Cain, where is Abel your brother? He said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? See, that's that guilt. Like what the fuck does Cain have to hide? God is coming and talking to him, and Cain should be able to clearly say to God, like, oh yeah, Cain's over there, or Cain's doing this, or I killed that motherfucker because, he's talking shit and he deserved it, right? But that's not what Cain says. Cain's like, I don't know. He does the exact same thing that Adam and Eve do when they hide from God. They're putting on clothes. God's like, hey, so what's going on? And when you face the Almighty, you have to recognize this is everything that you want to be, everything that you could be. That's what God is. Everything that you could be that you aren't being right now. Right? That's what God is. Everything that you could be that you are not being right now. All that potential. And that's an ideal. That's somebody that you want to look up to. That's somebody you want to keep on your radar, right? Keep tabs on so you know how well you're doing in your life. Like God, right? You want to have that as an ideal. Am I looking a little closer to God? Do I feel a little bit more like a God today than I did yesterday? Right? And so when God shows himself to you and you've done something wrong, you hide, man. You don't want to face the Almighty when you've done something wrong, when you've gone against his will, right? That's your own consciousness. You have to understand that. What allows you to live, breathe, speak, think, do all the things that you do is your ability to is God's attempt to manifest himself in the present moment, right? So your future potential comes to look at you, and you, in all your imperfection, look at that and like, fuck, I am wrong. I did something wrong. So you hide. You say the exact opposite. I don't know where my brother is. I'm not my brother's keeper. Like, fuck him. Right? And the Lord God said, what have you done? Because he knows. Like, he don't even have to act. Like, come on, man. He already knows. What have you done? And he said, I do not know. He said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. Right? What is that? What is that about? The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. You can't murder anybody and get away with it. In fact, you can't do no wrong and get away with it. God knows, man. Like your consciousness will destroy you. It's been developing. Consciousness has been developing for 3.5 billion years. It's more powerful than you. You can't trick it. You can't change the rules of the life. You can't change the setup, bruh. You can't change the setup. Life is already set up this way, right? Life is already set up for you to either choose good or choose evil. You can't be walking this like, oh no, I'm not going. Maybe I might choose evil tomorrow. Nah, yo, you gotta be like, nah. I know that I can be evil. I know I have the capacity to be evil. I know how to have the capacity to do really fucked up shit. But it is my capacity to choose to do the right thing that makes me righteous. That's what makes me aligned with life. That's what makes me aligned with the good, with the truth, with love, with all of the good things about life, right? And then you can deal with the suffering of life because you've aligned yourself with the goodness. Yeah, you've aligned yourself with everything is uh, that is good about life. You know, yeah. So you can't get away with anything, man. When you do something wrong, you tear a fabric. Like basically, it's like tying a knot in your timeline of life, right? Like you kind of do something here, like maybe the line breaks and you kind of do something here, and then you keep going on your life and you don't think about that moment, right? So you just like fucked up here. Actually, let me do it here since so so you fuck up here, and then you keep going in your life. And what happens is you think that you're getting away scot free, but this moment has a knot in it, right? And you're still looking back at that moment every time. You have to look back at that shit. Fuck, that might come back. And there might even be a time where you trick yourself and it goes away like this, right? But the problem is it's always still there. And if you get farther here, right, you have that knot holding you back. And so you're basically just stretching like a rubber band. Yeah. And it's actually, you're not moving forward, you're just stretching. You're building up that potential energy. Because what's going to happen is when that thing snaps back, when the truth actually comes back, what's going to happen is like that rubber band, bow, right? And you're going to have to experience all of that momentum of the thing that you did in the past that you have to suffer for, right? Like that's why it's better to, because if you reveal the truth here, then the drawback is not so bad, right? The repercussions aren't as bad, but the more you try to stretch it, okay, nah, this is the person that I am. You're like living in life, and you got one of those tension bands on, and you're like, oh, this is the person that I am supposed to be. And that life just pulls you back into submission, right back to that moment to say, no, motherfucker, you're going to pay for all of this shit that you did, right? And people tend to think like, oh, people that get away with stuff, nobody gets away with anything, right? That's why it's not good to look at other people's journeys. You got to look at your own journey and judge yourself based off of who you were yesterday and not who someone else is today. Shout out to Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules for Life. But you can only really look at your own journey, right? Because people don't get away with shit. We don't get away with things. We can't get away with things because consciousness will not allow us to, man. And you might think you're getting away with it because you came up with a really brilliant, articulate lie, right? But the thing is, that lie is a lie. It can't sustain. So you might have lied here and think you got away with it, but it's costing you something else that you're not even seeing because you have to pay attention to that lie. And that lie is now in the past. So that's a past moment that you have to keep thinking about. But you know what's great about the truth? If you just speak truth, you don't have to remember what you said because it's the truth. It's always going to be the truth. But if you speak a lie, you have to remember what was it that I said and what was I trying to be and who was I trying to be and what. But if it's the truth, it's already there. You know? So when you lie, you try to get away with it. You're only fooling yourself, man. And we get to exactly your end results will be just like Cain, right? And I'm going to show you what happens with Cain. So God says, the voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground, and now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. So check this out, man. When you do something wrong, that moment, the residue, the blood of that moment, right? The consequences that muster themselves in that moment seep into the universe's little network of communication, right? It seeps into it because it's like there is an injustice here. And you got to remember that the life is 3.5 billion years old, right? So this has been developing for a long time, trying to figure out, wait, okay, when something goes wrong, what exactly do we do? And life is used to playing the long game, right? Life is used to playing the 3.5 billion year game, right? So it's going to bite you in the back when you least expect it. Yeah? It's going to make you pay for that shit. You can't just get away with shit. Like you might think maybe 20 years, maybe 30 years, maybe 50 years, right? But you got to also understand in that 50 years, you're running with the tension band like this. And it gets hard to trust people. It gets hard to talk to people because you have this secret that you're holding back that you gotta remember, or that's killing you, right? And then by the end of your death, when you get to your deathbed, all of that guilt is gonna come rushing to you. All the things you didn't do, things you didn't say. Oh, I wish I did this. I wish I did this. I wish I called this person. No, I wish I didn't. All of that stuff, man. It's just gonna fucking flood into you like that. So it's just better off to not even align yourself with that foolishness, so that you can die on your terms. Because that's what it's about at the end of the day, right? You already know you're going to die. That's what the setup tells us in Genesis 3. You know you're going to die. You know we're all sinners. We know like life sucks and we're going to have to work for it either way, right? You know that. So if you know you're going to die, then maybe you can choose how you're going to die. Maybe you can die on your terms. Right? Because you played the game right. Because you played the game on the side of life. Right? You can't play the game of life on the side of death. That don't make no sense. You got to play the game of life on the side of life, with life as being a spirit of life. And life is on the side of truth, good, light, justice, all of that, right? And so life, because Abel is making good sacrifices. So he's doing a good job. Now, God's not going to let justice go unserved, right? So the world is good. The universe is going to shift itself in such a way that makes Cain pay for what he did, right? And that's exactly how life works. You have to pay for what you did. So these are the fundamental stories of humans, right? Not even so much thinking about these people as real people, even though they were real people, and these are real people, and people live these stories every day, right? So anyway, let's keep going. And now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it shall no longer yield to you its strength. Damn. It means like the shit ain't gonna work out for you. You know, this is another thing I think too. Sometimes when you're, if you're not doing right in your life, if you're not doing well in your life, then then you kind of start losing the luck element, right? Things just start happening to you that aren't really in your control, but they fucking suck. Like more shit happens like goddamn, like I just got into a car accident, or like, or the person didn't give me the right change at the job, or like, uh, I got paid less than I was supposed to get paid at my job, or or like have to go through a breakup now in this relationship. So all of these things start to go differently for you, right? You could be an expert farmer, but now you murdered your brother, and things aren't going to go so well for you. So that's what God is saying, and that's how life works, right? It's not fake. There's nothing fake about what I've read here so far, and so I'm so excited to keep going through it, because people don't read the Bible like it's a book. Like it's a story, right? People want to go and like take little bits and pieces out of it, but that's not how you fucking read a story. It makes no fucking sense, because it doesn't allow you to actually really pull together the elements that make up the story and learn from it the way that you should. Yeah, if you're skipping around in the story, pulling, like, you could take an excerpt from Harry Potter and that shit would seem weird as fuck and crazy as hell. But when you read it in context and you see the journey of the stories and how the characters progress, then you start to understand that it's actually usefully relevant to the present. So here we go. You work the ground; it's no longer going to yield its strength to you. You shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth. Boom. So he's like, damn, you're a fugitive. You got to run forever. People gonna be like, oh shit, that's Cain. He's the one who killed his brother. Don't talk to that motherfucker. Or kill him. Let's chase him. Let's take care. Like that. We don't want him in our tribe. That type of shit, man. And life already sucks. It's not like you got air conditioning and running water and showers. Like, nah, yo, like you out in the dirt. You out with fucking no plumbing. Life fucking already sucks. And now you don't got no support. You don't got no moral support, man. Everywhere you go, you gotta run. Damn, man. I can't wait to tell the story of Cain, man. Cain is a cool character for me. It's an interesting character, because Cain says to God, and this is where I feel like he kind of humbles himself in a sense. And there's still a humility there. He says, Cain says to God, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Right? That is, it's more than I can manage, man. But it's so interesting that Cain can even say that, because he's not dead. And God doesn't promise him with death, right? God doesn't say you're going to die for this. God says that you now have to wander the earth. You're going to be a fugitive, and the world will no longer yield itself to you in the way that it did. And that Cain just can't live with, because not only has he been punished, not only has he murdered his ideal, right? Because Cain or Abel is Cain's ideal, right? Abel is everything that Cain wants to be. He wants to be Abel. And instead, he decides to raise up against his brother, murder him, and then gets punished by just being a fugitive. Like, you're not even gonna die. Like, damn, well, God, you're not gonna kill me. I thought, like, what I think what Cain was wanting after his brother died and after he had to confess to the Almighty, he was hoping that God would just kill him, just end it right now. That's why a lot of people, like, that's why you have a lot of murder suicides. People just like, they end it. They want this to be done. And this is about more than just murder. This is about just sin in general. This is how sin works. And especially these dastardly sins. This is about sacrifice and all of that, right? So a lot of times in marriage, or in like, I guess because we watch a lot of true crime, and what we'll see is like in these marriages, there's no truth, there's no trust, there's no patience in the relationship. So that's where they fail most of the time. But what happens is that one of the people in the relationship feels like they've made all of these sacrifices that haven't gotten them anywhere, right? They've just lost everything, putting all of their time, money, effort into this relationship. Just like Cain, he's making all of these sacrifices, and God's still not treating him right. And then he goes to God, and God tells him it's his fault. Right? That's so fucked up, man. Like, it's so fucked up, but that's how life is. Like you're in this relationship and you're just like not getting treated right, and then you kind of got to go to a therapist and you got to go talk to somebody, and then the people that you talk to tell you that you got to change. It's like not somebody else has to change. You got to change. And then that you don't want to hear that, and so you go and try to talk to the other person, and you try to change them. And when you realize they're not going to change, you get so mad that you do something that you regret. And so that's what happens in a lot of these relationships. That's what happens to Cain. That's what happens to everyone when they commit a dastardly sin, a deadly sin, and and you just want to die. You want to die when you do that. Like, fuck. Not only did I do it, like I thought I could do it and it would like yield me some success, but now that I did it, it didn't yield me success, and I got caught, and I got punished. I would rather just not live with this thing. I just don't even want it, because I felt I had to deal with how I felt before, before this shit, and now I have to deal with how I feel even worse after this whole shit. Um, so you can empathize with Cain saying, "This is more than I can bear." And Cain becomes a wanderer. And behold, you have driven me today away from the ground, and from your face I shall be hidden. I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. See, like Cain is hoping to die. Cain is like, man, like, whoever's gonna find me is gonna just kill me. So I'm gonna be punished for this. I know I killed, so I will be killed. And God says, nah, bruh. He says, not so. If anyone kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord put a mark on Cain, and lest any who found him should attack him. Then Cain went away from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. So what's really fucking gangster about that is God is like, nah, man, you gonna live with this shit. Oh, you thought you could just get away scot-free? Nah, son, you gonna live with this shit. And ain't nobody killing you. Nah, and and as a matter of fact, if they even attack you, if they even think about killing you, murder on their entire family. And you see, that's what happens with murder. That's what happens with sin, right? You see, like, okay, one person does a sin, and then anybody who tries to sin against that person, it just starts a war, right? Like, that's the only option, because now you kill my person, I kill your person, you kill my person, I kill your person, I can kill these people. Oh, you killed all my family, and then we don't fuck with them, right? Now you have a whole gang, all because one person decided to take life into his own hands, right? Decided to be God. And now murders are happening 7 times 7 times 7. It's not a good look, man. That shit is gangster, though. God is like, yo, you're not going to... Like, and everybody deals with the punishments of his fathers, right? Like, we all have to accept like, that's what Cain and Abel have to accept, the punishment of Adam and Eve, right? And we don't really talk about that. Cain and Abel could have had a life all great, living in paradise. But Adam and Eve sinned, and so now Cain and Abel have to live with the sins of their fathers. They have to make sacrifices, right? And because they have to make sacrifices, one is better at making sacrifices than the other. Cain, one of them, rises up against the brother, and now you have Adam, right, and Eve, and they're like, "Fuck, man! Look at what we did. Look at what we caused." And God foreshadowed that shit. God said the snake is gonna bite the heel of your firstborn son. Not even your firstborn, just your son. Your offspring will be in constant battle with serpents, and serpents are the devil, and the devil is the one who convinces Cain to kill Abel. Right? That's what God says to him. It's that evil. And then maybe it's not the devil, right? But it is the devil because it's evil itself, right? Evil has crept into his heart, and now Cain is kind of colluding with the devil to be like, what should we do to that motherfucker? We should make him pay. Despite the fact that God is like, oh no, Cain, maybe you should figure it out. Maybe you should pay. And Cain is like, nah, I'm going to talk to this God guy. I'm going to talk to this devil guy. I'm going to play devil's advocate. And I'm going to roll with him for a second. And it seems like he knows what the fuck I need to hear. So he rises up he uses all that power that Satan can give. All that power that the devil has, right? Because it's half of the world. The devil is half of chaos and order, right? You have half of the world. So the devil has an immense amount of power, right? But life is the power. So you have God, you have the devil, and then you have God, right? It's like the whole thing. It's brilliant, man. The fact that the yin yang symbol exists, from fucking monkeys, man. We created this shit. And I'm sorry, I always call us monkeys and apes just in terms of being an evolutionary thinker. Like I think about time, I think about the scope of evolution and where we came from, and how the fact that I can articulate sentences to you and talk to you on a fucking communication device that allows me to, project myself to millions and billions of people. I came from an ape, right? Like I used to be a monkey. Right? Not me personally, but my DNA. And so that to me is incredible. The fact that we can now understand these stories and talk about these things, and the fact that we even wrote this book, right? The fact that this book even exists, I think is brilliant. And I think that that's something that people underappreciate. It's undervalued for sure. But anyhow, let's keep driving through this. So, behold, you have driven me today away from the ground, and whoever finds me will kill you. God says no. Nobody's going to kill you. In fact, if they do kill you, then murder's going to happen. Then war is going to take place. So Cain knew his wife, and he conceived and bore Enoch. And when he built a city, he called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. To Enoch was born Irad. Irad fathered Majual, Mehajul. I don't know how to say these names. Fathered Methushael. And Methushael fathered Lamech. And Lamech took two wives, and the name of the one was Adah, and the name of the other Zillah. Adah bore Jabal. He was the father of those who dwell in tents and have livestock. His brother's name was Jabal. He was the father of all those who play the lyre and pipe. Zillah was born Tubal-Cain. He was the forger of all instruments of bronze and iron. The sister of Tubal-Cain was Nameh. Lamech said to his wives, Adah, Zillah, hear my voice. You wives of Lamech, listen to what I say. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for striking me. And if Cain's revenge is sevenfold, then Lamech's is 70 sevenfold. And and Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son, and she called his name Seth, and she said, God has appointed for me another offspring instead of Abel, for Cain killed him. To Seth also a son was born, and he called his name Enosh. At that time, people began to call upon the name of the Lord. Wow, that's pretty dense. That's pretty damn dense. Okay, so what is all of this talking about? So first of all, because we're existing in this dual world of poetic storytelling and also history, right? We're telling each other these stories as oral traditions to try to keep catalog of what the fuck, where the fuck did we come from? We're monkeys, and we want to keep a record of how we relate, how we talk to each other, how we communicate. And the thing that allows us to align ourselves with each other is the stories that we can relate on together, right? Because the stories are what unite us. Because we all know the story, we can all put ourselves in the story so we understand how to communicate with each other based off of this story. So part of the Bible, which you'll find is there's this historical element, right, where they're trying to merge history, but they're not actually keeping records. So this is where the confusion comes, where you're like, oh, well, the Bible is made up. Yes, it's made up in the sense that it's not historically accurate. There's not, because they weren't scientific historians, right? And they didn't know, and history wasn't kept as meticulously as it's kept today, right? We try to keep everything, any little picture, anything we put out, we want to keep that shit. And we, gets stored in the cloud, and we have that information in a database forever, amen. But for these people, what kept things alive was people's ability to tell stories. And every time you tell a story, it's never the same. It's never the same as the first time. So it's always going to change and shift and flip and all of that. But so right now they're trying to create kind of a lineage, yeah. Saying all of these names and trying to figure out, oh yeah, because if you imagine you're telling your friend this story orally, right? And you knew Enosh or Enoch or whatever, and you could be like, yeah, oh yeah, and Enoch, and I think his dad was this person and this person and this person, and then so when we get together, as we all try to tell the story, we might say, you might think that Enoch was your cousin, and it turns out that Enoch was actually your brother, and it's all kind of mixed. And so as we align ourselves with each other and the communities start to grow, our stories get more and more developed. Then we have to decide, okay, what's the actual core of this story, right? And the story couldn't end up in this book if it wasn't true. That's what you have to understand about this book being written by so many people. So many people aren't gonna just make up a book. We all have to agree on it, right? When we all come together to create art, when we all come together to tell a story, we all have to agree on how the story is being told. Yeah. So with this being in development for thousands of years, maybe hundreds of thousands of years, maybe millions, but with these stories being in development for so long, we're trying to tell us a realistic story. We're not trying to, but that helps people, because stories help people. Yeah. So we're going through all of this. We're talking about where certain people came from. We're trying to create a lineage here. But what really is important to recognize in this story is the punishment for killing someone. Right? So already, because of Adam's transgressions, he forces his sons to make sacrifices. Cain decides to sacrifice his brother, right? So he commits a sin by sacrificing his brother because his dad committed a sin by sacrificing sacrificing consciousness, right? Sacrificing his own his own connection to consciousness. Adam does, and then so his son has to pay for that. Yeah, his sons, plural, have to pay for Adam's mistakes. Then I think Lamech is great grandson of Cain, is now killing people. He says, I killed a man, and look, if my dad was cursed, then this is how I'm cursed. 70 times 7. And that's how it is. That's the sevenfold. That's what starts a war. So that's what's really important about this entire passage. War. This is how wars start. Just from one person, thinking that they have the right and authority to decide who should live and die. One person. That is a recipe for war. That's all you need. One person deciding that it's not my problem, it's their problem, and I'm going to fix them by killing them. War. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. And I'm really interested because this is actually my first time looking closely at this. Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son and called his name Seth. For she said, God appointed for me another offspring instead of Abel, for Cain killed him. Because Seth is the name of the devil, or the chaos god, the god of chaos in Egyptian language, Egyptian cultures, and so that's really interesting. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research to figure out what exactly that means. So actually, why the name Seth for the son of Adam? Ladies and gentlemen, it has been so awesome to be going through chapter 4. Genesis chapter 4 is about murder and sacrifice. That's the core of the idea. What is sacrifice about? And if you don't make the right sacrifices, it can lead to murder. I'm so excited to be going through this Bible stuff. I get to learn so much. Honestly, I love that people are watching, but selfishly, I just love that I get to go through the Bible by myself and then just talk it out. Because I don't have a lot of friends that I get to really just discuss the Bible with in any significant way. So I hope to be able to build a community of people that want to discuss these topics and hear what I think about them, and as I kind of explore them and go through them, I hope that people are learning and you guys get used to my vocabulary on how I talk about dissecting religion, and I can get used to talking about dissecting religion and get more comfortable diving into this and feeling like an authority, because sometimes I still feel like a pupil, but I'm also because I'm learning a lot of aspects, like how to run a live show, how to stay consistent, how to keep it engaging, and all of that stuff. But I'm most concerned about being consistent and just getting to jump into the Bible really simply. I'm not trying to add too many aspects that's going to make me want to stop or make it feel like that's just too much. But guys, I'm so excited to have gotten to dissect religion yet again for another week, and I hope that you guys will join me next week every Sunday at 1 p.m. CST. We're going live, diving into the Bible. and we can feel the Holy Spirit, and then the next day we can get down and dirty on the Devil's Advocate with the Sick brothers, myself and Akron Watson, where we're making the best cases for the guiltiest pleasures. So we get a little yin yang there, and I love yin yang. So let's do it. I will see you guys next time on Dissecting Religion.